Yeah, and I think a lot of students and staff here feel as though that the ideological difference I'm speaking about is that the university previously would have been open to alternative, or evidently because they invested in SCA and have done for years, were keen to invest in contemporary education, unorthodox education really, but now they're not. That's the shift people are perceiving.
That's the perception.
Yeah, the ideological shift.
Yeah, but they don't believe in the fine art. UC doesn't believe in fine art.
It's very distant. Very
well, not so much fine art. NAS is more fine art.
Good point.
Visual art.
Yeah.
contemporary
SCA is
Yeah.
much more than fine art in the very traditional sense.
But it is difficult to quantify the importance.
No,
of these
I agree with
things.
that. And thank you for explaining what you're meaning by ideology. And there is a very real difference between education in creative arts and in humanities, and certainly in, I know it's debatable
Sciences.
whether psychology is a social science or what it is. But and yes, I absolutely take your point about you can measure things in psychology. That's part of what it's about.
Yeah, and I understand that it's difficult for main campus people who are native to main campus teaching styles and ideologies to understand what exactly goes on. Like I have good friends who are studying engineering or something, and after knowing me for a while, they go like, "Oh, you're actually really smart." Like no one expects it in the liberal arts student.
Do you think? I mean, they've really got another thing coming. Some of the brightest people I know have been.
Well, you speak about that in classes other places. My mum's an engineer, and I've grown up thinking there's not much difference between a good artist and a good scientist.
Just a little task, and I share your hope with every fibre that I've got. I won't be here for the duration of your candidature. I'm on a 6-month contract. It's possible that it will be extended, but my particular task is to, in particular, to liaise among all the groups and to represent the various positions that are coming out of SCA. A particular example, one concern that I've heard from staff in various contexts, from students in the groups I've met with earlier in the week, and in other places and other conversations, is a concern that the BVA is under threat and that it will cease to exist as a degree. Well, that's one I'll die in the ditch for. The BVA must continue as the flagship degree for SCA. Now, I know others of you are enrolled in other degrees, but you would appreciate that undergraduate credential, I use the term flagship, and certainly the master's programs and the research programs similarly have to be to some extent modified, but that's happening all the time, evolution. But I would just also say one more thing, and I will come back to the guts of your question because that's very real of your statement. SCA is only one faculty in the many at Sydney University, all of which are undergoing tremendous curriculum upheaval. It's the most radical curriculum shift in the undergraduate domain, perhaps ever, at Sydney University. So that some of the curriculum changes are not particular to this place, nor are some of the structural changes, by which I mean the location of particular units within other units. So the proposal is that SCA become part of a bigger conglomerate, which would include the present Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences and the present Faculty of Education and Social Work and the present Faculty of Sydney College of the Arts. And there are other similar adjustments. SCA, I think, is more severely impacted than any of those other faculties. So while you're part of a bigger picture, we are part of a bigger picture, yes, but more severely impacted than other people. And I think it's hard to take in all of these considerations, but that is an important one. On the question of what specifically am I going to do, I think I know a bit more at the end of the week than I did at the beginning. Monday was the first day that I'd spent on this campus for a long time. You'd be aware that I had a previous time here as acting dean in a situation in which the dean had resigned, and there was a period during which advertisement for a new dean proceeded, and so on. There have been expressed concerns that go like this, quote, "What does a professor of English know about creative arts, etc., etc." I don't pretend to be a practitioner. I'm not a critic of the fine arts. My particular credentials, if you like, in this job are very considerable experience across humanities, social science and creative arts, particularly in research domains that I served on the Excellence in Research for Australia exercise, of which some of you may have heard about. The ERA, yeah, which is very important because the rankings that individual faculties or individual disciplines receive in that help determine funding. And in particular, and I think this is germane to the present situation, the earliest conversations around recognising what are called, and I hate this nomenclature, non-traditional research outputs. That means paintings, musical performances, all kinds of creative outputs. I was in on part of those earliest discussions and have been part of the ongoing discussions until the last year around. I wasn't involved with the university submission on that occasion, but I'm still involved in refining those criteria, and that's, I have had real involvement in what it means to what creative arts education and research are actually about. Yes, look, I'm still not answering. I want to say what I want to try to do. It's to get opinions heard in the dark or in the light. And I think there are, already what I've been doing this week over there, as distinct from over here it's just whatever comes at me, and I'm grappling with that and learning all the time, is what I think of as an exercise in translation. People think that if you see art theory written in curriculum in one place, well, it means the same as if you see it written in curriculum in another place. And it simply isn't the case that what the critical studies stream here provides is equivalent to what art theory in the art history department provides, and that needs to be understood. It can't just be that SCA is sort of siphoned up and
Redistributed.
Redistributed or spat out or something. Yeah, and so that kind of very basic representation of the interests of SCA is one of the things that that I see myself as doing. I've talked quite a lot about that, so I think it's perhaps time that I took the question over
I'm
here.
curious because my name's Isla. I'm doing my MFA here in second year, about to finish apparently. And I think what concerns me, and perhaps a lot of artists, is that having not practiced as an artist maybe having done creative, whatever art, whatever you do, education is a very different thing to training an artist.
Yes.
And I think that's kind of the crux of the matter, is that not only I don't think are we're called a faculty, but I think the issue is that we need to be called an art school, and we need to be given some dispensation about the way we function that isn't under the auspices of the university's traditional structures. That seems to be what's at stake here. They're incompatible animals. And I don't think any argument for what we have here in any university context is relevant. Because I don't think even the theory that the electives and whatnot we do here are also irrelevant to becoming an artist. Writing essays about whatever is additional to your practice. It's all about your practice. Everything is generated out of your practice. All your questions, which have nothing to do with the electives. So my question is, like, what's the point if you're not arguing for this to remain as an art school? Not only a faculty, can be called in the name of faculty, but essentially an art school needs to be, has a moral obligation to run art schools, to run these kinds of institutions. That's their moral obligation. Everyone can see quite clearly that they're just absolving themselves of that responsibility due to some financial rubbish. We know it's rubbish, we all know it's rubbish, some neoliberal rubbish. So that's what's so devastating. It's not just it's a very deep, deep thing, because we all know what's going on here.
I will say simply, I don't agree with your analysis, but thank you for saying so, and I'm making it my business to indicate that.
What's your analysis?
Oh, fair enough. I have given a brief outline of the landscape of changes within the university, etc., etc. I think that there is a long discussion we could have, and doubtless it's had lots of places and will continue to be had and should continue to be had around visual arts education. And personally, I don't share the distinction that you make between practice and theory, although what I think I heard you say was the theory that is encapsulated or presented in the units here. Now, I'm not picking nits there. My position would be that all creative work is informed by some kind of philosophy, and it's informed by techniques, and that those elements and others combine. Creative writing is taught in the English department. Musical composition is taught at the Conservatorium of Music. You appear not to think that those are analogies. All I want to say out of that is that I think there is a place, and a bigger place than musical composition in one faculty and creative writing in another, that the distinctiveness of visual arts education should certainly be recognised, and that that needs to be a current distinctiveness, so that part of my point about the identity of SCA is that we need to be sure going forward about what it is that is being represented as that identity, and some good terms about contemporary. She's gone.
Sue's gone.
Yes, contemporary ideology, I've lost it, have been used in our conversation.
I think the point, sorry to interrupt one more time, I think the point is that it's not that we don't want to do extra things like electives, it's just that the structure used to be that we had real live artists coming in and doing real live workshops, not some abstracted thing that, like, what happens here is, it's not necessarily, I agree with you that everything comes out of some kind of ideology and theory, no doubt. It's just that I don't believe that the university's structuredness of it is applicable to the way the artist grows and learns. They learn from other artists and from being challenged by other artists.
I don't see that as incompatible with a university structure.
One of my main concerns.
I don't know your name, but you've had your hand up.
Cherry's the name. I feel, just to sort of add on to Ella's point, just in general, I feel like for the artist, the art space that we do our art in this case our studios, which we have here at SCA, which we know cannot be recreated in main campus. There's simply not space. And main campus also hasn't made a commitment to trying with the limited space they have to recreate those studios, and our art and our identity as artists is like tied to a point to those spaces that they can't, without actual trauma to the artist, they can't be separated. And I feel that, and I think other people share my concern, that a dean of an art school needs to understand and ideally experience that experience, for lack of a better way of phrasing it. So as a non-artist, you can listen to our concerns about it, but if you don't actually embody that experience, I don't think you can take on that concern for us, ideally.
Fair point. Obviously, I can't accept it unquestioningly or hesitatingly, but on your comment that the university hasn't made a commitment to providing good space, one of the messages which I think really has been received is that for any discussion about relocation to proceed, there has to be an indication of what the location is on main campus.
We haven't been told.
No, and neither have I. So I'm as keen to know as you are, and there have been sites suggested and so on and so on, one of which at least is, well, it's 10 minutes walk as I walk, without crossing Parramatta Road, from the John Woolley building, which some of you may know, which is the first relevant part of the university along Parramatta Road, meaning that the vet school, I don't think even the most imaginative of you would have much that you would want to share with the vets, lovely people. The question of a location is absolutely critical. And you speak of recreation of space. Well, look, it's not going to be, if it happens, it's not going to be exactly like the spaces here.
And that
it has to be.
That will create trauma for our
scientists. Well,
can I just ask, are you worried about moving out during your degree?
No, it's more just separating, like, whether you're in the first year degree, in the middle, towards the end, or like I'm done my degree, but still like seeing other artists being taken away from their art space and seeing a dedicated art space disappearing, just destroyed is traumatic. And I'm like, there's no way that we could move to main campus and not have that happen.
Okay, so I am quite angry because I feel like I've been misled and I've gone into debt to do this. And so I have like 3 concerns. My first concern is that I'm not sure if it's happening or not, but I really want the SCA library to stay intact. Yes. Because as someone that cares about research, like, artists have particular research needs that the librarians here are equipped to deal with, that people in other libraries aren't. My second concern is that the proposed staff cuts if 60% of our staff leave, who's going to help? Like, what technical staff is going to be able to explain how to set up a kiln or how you like make a copper dome and everything? Like, who's going to ensure that the students are learning in a safe, informative manner? And my other concern with the move, like with the proposed move, is that don't know if we've received some new email in the past 3 days, but no emails have concrete promises about where we'll be and what facilities we have. And to set up the facilities we need to make art is probably more expensive than the cost of being here. So if they're using finances to justify their choices, then where will the kilns be? Who's going to set up the glasswork? And who's going to set up all these things if money is like the big concern? Which I don't think it should be. I disagree with that, but that's like my,
sure.
yeah.
So if you're a current student, you'll be taught out here.
Sorry, can you all speak a little bit louder?
Sorry, yeah. So if you're a current,
Come on, little.
if you're a current
Wiggle a little
student,
closer if that helps.
you'll finish your degree.
I will speak up.
You'll finish your degree here.
All subjects, including theory and all that?
The only exception might be theory.
Yeah.
Picture of art.
Sorry, I can't hear.
It's not the point. I mean,
Yeah.
it's about with children who are
Yeah.
in schools now that want to use these facilities. Why destroy it? It's like, it's devastating. It's really devastating. It's not just about our degrees. It really isn't. It's about something much, much bigger.
A cultural thing that's going to be gone.
If it was just about a degrees, I wouldn't be at this meeting because I'm graduated. I'm done. But I still care about SCA for the current people and and for like generations and generations to come. I want SCA here for the entirety of the 99-year-long lease it has.
And ongoing.
Yeah, and further than that.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm not defending it in any way. Yeah.
And my other
But yeah.
My other concern is saying that current students are going to be okay. That's probably only applicable to able-bodied students. Disabled students sometimes they have to study part-time in order to be able to complete their degree, or sometimes they have to defer for a semester because they have an obstacle. So I don't know if it's like, I've heard the number 2018 thrown out. I don't think that actually includes disabled students personally.
Or other students proceeding part-time and not someone.
Well, I'm
You're
finished
the
in 2020,
yes.
and I don't really want to be taught out in a shell of a place. Because
Exactly.
nobody else.
That's the difference.
With no community. I
intake
mean,
next year.
if you haven't got an arts community around you, that was one of the things that was nurtured when we started, and emphasised that we needed to rely on the support of fellow artists in the future once we graduated, because we don't make art in a vacuum.
It's incredibly invigorating having a first year come through every year. It's just invigorating to see the new work, the new energy. And if you don't have that, you really lose something. And same with the MFAs. If you don't, I've got this amazing cohort of honours kids in the same studio that I'm in. They're just so vibrant and amazing. We've already put on several shows with them. They were all fired up to go into masters next year, and they just have the wind taken out of their sails. It's just wrong on so many levels. You've got this amazing, vibrant community here, and what the university just doesn't get it, that you just can't create that kind of thing. I bet you they don't have this vibrant, energetic environment in any other faculty over there. I bet you $5 they don't have it in any other faculty. The same sense of ownership of their undergrads, the way we look forward to the new first years coming through. What work are they doing downstairs from my painting studio this year? You know, that's a real thing. I think it's so wrong that the university is not logging into that.
One of the really great things about SCA, in my experience with it over a long time, is the way that there's this organic feel that the students, the staff, whether the academic teaching staff or the technical staff, are all separately and collectively involved. And it is a fantastic energy, and it's that creative energy that, you know, I think is really important and has to be.
And we have precious little of that outside anywhere else, and yet you want to destroy it somewhere where it grows up, because that's the kind of people we are.
Yeah, no, this is the second home for the artist.
Yeah,
here, it
this is the
absolutely
kind of people where you find your, your tribe, for want of a better word.
The other thing is that if the management were taking consultation seriously, maybe they should have done it like a year ago. Like we should have been having these discussions for a very long time because we're all very passionate and I think we all have very important perspectives. And how can all those perspectives be heard if we're only having consultations in the last half of the second semester when I think it's just, these consultations should have been happening ages ago. And people like first years who are enrolled, I can't even imagine how awful that would be. They should, if the consultations had been happening earlier, the first years could have had a chance to speak up. People move cities to come here. I moved city to come here. Could not imagine the stress of this happening in my first year. Countries, actually, yeah.
Could you sum up for me what it was that about SCA that had you come?
Wow. I think it was like the huge commitment to studio practice, and the way that, like from what I read about it, that it was clear that the artists fed off each other and that collaboration was a big focus. And my art school back home, we lost our campus, and now the program I was in it doesn't exist anymore, and that was like
You've been through it.
I've been through it already, and it's terrible. And then seeing this again, it's just like, not again. But yeah, just like I saw a recreation of that space, and yeah, I felt like I needed that again. And it was a place that like I could. My personal art practice is very multifaceted, and it was a place where because of the collaboration, I could explore every aspect of my art practice within one program, which was, it was incredible.
So the range of disciplines offered
Yeah.
is an important factor in your decision.
And studios.
Yes. So that
Can I just say, I switched unis to come here, and certainly wasn't advised at all that this might happen. But what I think you're hearing here is that SCA has an identity.
yes.
And in some way, or in a large way, shape and form, Sydney University is obliterating that. It's taking away identity. And identity is really important on a personal level, but on a community level and on a professional level, identity is everything. Without that, people have nothing to bond to. So this has got a very, very vibrant identity, regardless of where it is. And by just taking it and saying, well, it's a disposable identity and it can just be put onto, what is it, social science or something?
Yeah, I think.
It's like saying, well, the identity is of no value. I think that's what, having read everything, that is the biggest single mistake that the University of Sydney hasn't taken into account. That it's not just people practicing art, it is. But it's
an identity.
The huge
Yes.
identity of what these art schools mean. And it seems to have been completely negated. And there's no discussion of how is that identity going to be maintained within the change. And I understand change happens, but what I can't understand, having been in the corporate world, is how this can be done so badly. Because we know it's an industry. There are change managers. There are change processes. They take a long time. They're very consultative. They're usually quite honourable. Even in the corporate world, this seems to be the absolute reverse of that. And it's that core identity that has just been almost like completely disregarded. It's not just the individual artists, although they make the identity, but it's what went before and what might come in the future, and it's everything around that seems to have been disregarded completely. I find so sad.
Yeah. I mean, what you're bringing home to me is quite what a tough assignment I've taken on. But I'm aware of that. And I don't want to play word games, but my concern very much is to assist in preserving an identity for SCA. And I think that my version of it and yours have a great deal in common. What I started off by saying at an earlier point in the discussion is that it's quite difficult to tease out the identity that is connected to the physical location here and the identity when you can't just slice it off or skim it off. But what are the integral aspects of the environment here?
I think
and I think there have been some really useful statements.
I came to hear Ben Quilty talk a few weeks ago, and he obviously changed his speech completely because of what's going on. But he didn't study here. He studied elsewhere.
Mansfield Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was very strong about the identity of a school. You know, I mean, he wasn't negating this environment, but he was saying that it's the the intangible of a collective, of a group of people, you know, who have for a long time been creating art together, and you know, wherever. He wasn't talking about this particular environment, although everybody who comes new into it thinks it's crucial, but it's the very fact of it being a school, a separate school for like-minded people who want to pursue certain things. I mean, other people have it in UCID. I mean, law, people who always, you've got new law everywhere, and it's promoted within the campus. Well,
which is another point about promotion and marketing,
why
I keep hearing.
Why is it so easy just an identity of this standing? Why is it cast aside so quickly and easily?
They wouldn't dream of kicking all the lawyers out to Parramatta. They wouldn't, right? Why would we even dream about kicking the artists out there? It's like we are just this totally disregarded element of society, not that we're actually valuable.
In terms of promotion, I was quite disgusted at the open day because I was on main campus and I asked someone where the SCA table was, like an information person. They told me there wasn't one. And then afterwards I found out that there was.
I was there.
So that's like, really, but like, why, like, that's ridiculous. Like, imagine how many students might have gone to that table and asked an information person and got the answer that I did.
Well, a lot came, but
but
I did get that report.
I would have loved to have come.
Yeah.
I didn't know where it was. I tried to find out where it was from a uni staff member, and they didn't know. So I just find that's ridiculous in terms of promotion.
It's very offensive, isn't it?
And yet we're reading the world now in terms of images far more than we ever have done.
Absolutely.
We're flooded with images, our interpretation of them, they're carrying lots of messages to us. I would have thought visual arts and visual imagery should be, in terms of learning, should be a very high priority. So, kind of why...
It's more than that though, it's the embodied learning. It's not necessarily... If you take that line, they'll decide to just put you in front of a screen and say make some pictures, and it's just not about that. It's about that embodiedness, which comes from studio.
Sorry, may I say something? I may have missed it because I came in late, but I'm very interested in sculpture, and particularly in glass and ceramics, and I'm just wondering what the future of those facilities and associated personnel will be. And has Sydney University got a place in mind for us to move to? No.
Not yet.
No.
But there is active appraisal and investigation of spaces, and you would know that there is a question as to whether glass, ceramics and jewellery will be sustained into the future, and there's now quite active reconsideration of the proposal that they should all be scrapped.
Great.
I can't say more than that.
Well, that's good because
I'm not making any predictions, but there is active reconsideration of a lot of aspects of the change
the
proposal,
whole thing
of which
seems
that's
to have
one.
been so badly thought out by Sydney University.
Does the university still actually have the lease on this? Is that they definitely categorically still have the lease on this place? So it's definitely guaranteed ours potentially for the next 80 years.
We'll have amended.
So they're not going to
I
pass
answer
it over
that
to the New South Wales
not as a
government?
lawyer, because goodness knows what the technicalities would be, but on the face of it, yes.
So what's your position on the 60% staff cuts?
I think that's a very, 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 very worst case scenario. And the term staff cuts, and this is going back to something you said before, refers to absolute numbers. So, and you spoke particularly of concern that technical staff not be available to support work in studios. That wouldn't happen. There would have to be.
There has to be.
Appropriate staff for the programs that are offered. So I think 60% staff cuts is
It's impossible.
impossible.
If it's impossible, why was it proposed? Why is it in the draft changes?
The same reason the University of New South Wales merger was proposed.
Yeah, because the tutors here are fantastic.
That's a recurrent theme too, which I keep trumpeting. The appreciation of the teaching staff among students. There probably are dissenting voices, but I haven't heard them yet.
I've never had a bad experience. All the tutors here are fantastic.
We had a diminished intake in terms of masters, PhDs and first years next year. We're still going to keep 100% of our staff for the remaining students. If it's a diminished program, that's what I'm concerned about.
100% of the current staff. I mean, you'd be aware that any change proposal, I'm not sure how much you are up on the university's enterprise bargaining agreement, but any change proposal under the agreement reached by the unions, etc., in the university some years ago and gets revised from time to time. Any change proposal has to include a provision of voluntary redundancy for affected staff, so that there will be some people who choose to go, to take that package and go. So that the question of what is 100% of staff, it is unlikely that there will continue to be the same absolute number of staff.
I'm just flabbergasted that you can just say the words draft change plans means that people are offered redundancy when this is a draft. What if nothing changes and we actually scrap that rubbish and say this is an amazing art school, you're all going to stay here, but we've given people voluntary redundancy on what grounds? That you can't offer something in the future.
If that aspect of the draft change proposal is not reflected in the revised change proposal, then people will not take voluntary redundancies because the whole thing's collapsed. I'm sorry, I'm talking in very general terms.
Yeah, because when would the
And
staff be
my
given
answer
information?
the staff have that.
They have it already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if the redundancies have a timeline, I think that's my understanding. So if the redundancies have a timeline, what's the timeline for the revised draft proposal?
Well, I'm just dumbfounded because I don't think any jobs should be under threat. I don't think anyone should be offered any redundancies. I think we should be continuing the art school. And my fear is, like, I'm a teacher, right? Let's imagine I'm a teacher and I've got 3 kids and it's like, you might not have a job next year. Just in case you don't have a job, how about we offer you this redundancy? It's like a fear tactic.
Yeah.
And I find that...
It is a fear tactic.
Utterly intimidation. Sorry?
They play with it. They play with it. They offer it, and then they say they won't offer it after a
Yeah,
period of
that's
time.
right. So I find
That's
that...
somebody's livelihood. You
I
should
find it
be able to play with somebody's
utterly
livelihood.
abhorrent that that's the game being played. And it's like, let's destabilise the situation because there's only, look, 60% of staff left. So that's I just find the whole thing abhorrent and arse about, excuse my language.
So that's why I had the question about the revised draft plan timeline, because I think the redundancies have a deadline. So if they take that redundancy and then it turns out they make a revised draft change,
It can be based on those redundancies.
yeah, like it doesn't...
Yeah.
Well, that's the final one.
It's
I
moving
think.
through.
Yeah. The revised one doesn't have the redundancies in it.
My other, I have,
So make your decision now, quick, or, you know.
Well,
grab
there's a window there.
Won't be offered tomorrow.
Um,
It's horrible.
I just wanted to say, so you agree that this transition has been badly planned, or could have been planned better with...
Especially if I've been there.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why there is a...
I'm joking.
Mm.
I have to deal with the situation that I find.
Do you know why they chose this timeline? Like, why they decided that this had to be, implemented by the end of the year?
is it to do with the EBA?
Well, certainly once it's decided to implement a change proposal, then it's very specific what the periods are within which individual steps must be completed.
Why don't you, if you really do care about the art school, why don't you, submit a proposal to delay, to give it another 3 years, if you think that,
I wish it was
more
that- I wish it was that
sensitivity
simple.
and
This is a-
consultation
yes.
is needed,
This is a matter that has to be gone through step by step, and there's collateral damage, whatever line is taken on any given point.
well then...
Now because it's been put in motion prematurely and
In any
inadequately.
situation, this is the case.
But if it had been done properly, as per our architect friend the other day who said she's been involved in so many of these kinds of things, if it had been done properly, perhaps this collateral damage, we would have been forewarned that we were about to become collateral damage.
So why do we need to be collateral damage? If it had been handled properly, isn't the point that when
Yeah,
things are
they
handled
wouldn't
properly,
be
there is
Interested in
no...
handling it properly.
Yeah.
They were never interested in trying to save
Margaret?
it.
So, the other day I spoke to you and you corrected me in my English, because English is my second language.
I don't remember correcting you. Your English.
You rephrased.
Your English is much better than my
And
Spanish.
so, because English is my second language, and I don't really understand what the university and what it's doing and all of that, I want to ask you, what is the problem with the $45 million law school that was sold by the university? Like, what is that problem? Like, I just don't I don't see the connection with the SCA. Like, what's the problem?
I think the short answer to that is there is no connection with SCA, and I'm not prepared to go into that particular matter now. It's much too complicated, and what was in the press on whichever day, Wednesday was it? The story in the Sydney Morning Herald.
Might have been the weekend.
There's been a couple.
No, there've been a
Yeah.
couple, but
Yeah.
the most recent one was based on misinformation, and there will be a statement very soon that I can share with staff and students about the inaccuracies in that. It's 2:00. You're being very quiet and patient, so please.
Thank you very much, Margaret. So we talk about the they and the decision makers. I'm interested to know who are now the decision makers. And so are you part of a committee, or do you report directly to the Senate and then one person is responsible for all these? What is the mechanism now? Presumably it's changed from the decisions that came down initially. Presumably there is a rather broader consultative process.
I'm a member of lots of committees, but not any committee of oversight of the sort that you appear to be describing, because I don't think that there is one. The provost has overall carriage of this matter, as you would know, and certainly as those members of staff and the students who've been meeting with him, and that's been a very extensive, ongoing process. So it's the provost, and formally The Vice-Chancellor, of course, has input, and any eventual recommendation would have to go to Senate. But Senate acts on the basis of recommendations from the Vice-Chancellor, the Provost.
So then, does that mean that the Provost himself took it upon himself to write that whole draft at the previous communiques and then submitted that to the Senate for ratification or something? One person? It doesn't? No. So, okay, so do you have direct communication with Stephen Garden?
Yes, and in particular with the Director. Do you have Sandra Harrison's title on the tip of your tongue? Executive Director.
Executive Director.
Yes.
The Provost's office.
So very last one.
Just wanted to ask you if you're aware of the Let SCA Stay campaign and the demands that students are making on the university, whether you support those demands and whether you would sign on to those demands.
How could I be unaware?
Yeah, well.
And I'm aware in general terms of those demands because no specific demands have ever been presented to me. That's why, yes, but I can read.
I can bring you up the specific demands. Like,
No, we know them. Yeah.
well, but you just said that you haven't seen them. I'll bring them up.
No, what I said is no demands have specifically been made to me.
Okay, so then we need to write you a letter with the demands.
And will
Is that what you're saying?
Ask you whether you will sign on to them.
Well, I can't without seeing them. But and look, not to muck around. I suspect that I can't. That I would not agree to certain of the demands.
Can you say which ones you would agree to and which ones you wouldn't?
Do you like studio-based practice?
I like studio-based.
Do you want the staff
I hope I've
to
made that clear in the course of this hour, and we really must draw the meeting.
One last question. I mean, what actions can you tell us that you are going to do to...
Again, I've tried to tell you to the best of my ability what I will try to the best of my ability to do, and that is step by step to represent both to you, the students, and to the many other parties who are involved in this, what SCA is about and what the best possibilities are, with evidence, for continuing what's essential about SCA, which is the kind of studio-based practice that...
The easiest way to do that is if you lobby against the management's
I wish it was as simple as that.
You can.
Look, I think we've canvassed the issues very thoroughly, and
sounds like you're more interested in defending like this plan that they've made than you're actually caring about saving the art school, and it kind of feels like, you know, then like if that's the case, then how can we trust you to actually, you know, properly manage the transition if you know,
that's your
the
decision.
tone that comes off.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.